Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX World. I'm Megha Sharma and this is the World Report. Let's take a look at the big stories of the hour. United States President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu unveil a joint peace plan for Gaza, calling for an immediate ceasefire, release of hostages and exclusion of Hamas from future governance. In response, the Palestinian Authority welcomes the proposal, terms it sincere and determined. Following the Gaza peace proposal, Qatar has said that it is set to hold talks with its Turkish counterparts to discuss US President's plan. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesperson says Hamas would study the proposal responsibly. The Arab nations have expressed their support to the 20-point Gaza peace plan proposed by America and Israel, while Italy, Spain, UK and India have also welcomed President Trump's initiative, praising efforts to end violence, release hostages and ensure humanitarian aid. Israel claims documents show links between activist Mission Aid Flotilla and Hamas. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has explicitly mentioned that the Palestinian Conference for Palestinians functions as Hamas's representative body abroad, operating as Hamas embassies. 3 persons have been injured in a suspected car ramming terror attack at the Al-Qadr junction in south of Jerusalem. Police say that the assailant was neutralized by security forces at the scene. Reports suggest that the 2 of the victims are listed in good to moderate condition, while one is severely injured. US President Donald Trump has announced sweeping new tariffs on imported wood products, including lumber, cabinets, furniture, movies, citing national security and economic resilience. The White House has said that the tariff hikes will roll out starting 14th of October. Ukraine reports Russian drone strikes kill family of 4 in Sumy region. Officials confirm attack targeted a residential building in a village in northeast Ukraine. Rescuers have recovered 2 parents and 2 young children following the attack. A building has collapsed at an Islamic boarding school in East Java in Indonesia, trapping dozens of children. 3 students have been reportedly killed in the tragic accident and 8 people have been pulled out of the rubble, while 65 continue to remain missing. The United Nations has welcomed all mediation efforts and stands ready to provide humanitarian aid in Gaza. The White House released a 20-point peace plan calling for an immediate ceasefire, a hostage exchange, staged Israeli withdrawal, Hamas disarmament, and a transitional government led by an international body. Hamas said that it will review the plan in good faith. UN agencies, including OCHA, are prepared to increase the delivery to support civilians in Gaza.
We are also continuing to be in touch with the parties, with the various parties about the peace efforts. Indeed, we welcome all the mediation efforts, and of course we stand ready to support any peace plan with everything we can do, including the provision of humanitarian assistance.
The UN is not part of drafting this proposal, which remains a proposal. So on the content, on what's in it, I don't know. What I can say for sure is that the United Nations and its humanitarian agencies, of course, as we have done since day one, stand ready and prepared and capable to increase aid deliveries inside Gaza whenever the opportunity is such that we are allowed to do so, and the safety and security of doing so is there.
Spokesperson for the Fatah movement, he's joining me from Ramallah. Thank you very much, and of course, a quick response from you with regards to the 20-point peace plan that has been announced by US President Donald Trump. Do you think this is going to be the precursor for lasting peace to happen in terms of a deal that could be struck between Israel and Hamas?
Well, our priority right now is to stop the war, to stop the genocide, to allow the full entry of aid, to stop the starvation, the mass killing of the Palestinians. We are committed to work with the international community and with the United States within a framework that would end this conflict, this war, and go into a comprehensive peace process that will implement the two-state solution in a framework where it fulfills the Palestinian inalienable rights of self-determination and the two-state solution, 1967 borders and independence, where a contiguous Palestinian state in West Bank and Gaza, including East Jerusalem. This would fulfill the two-state solution and bring a lasting peace in the struggle for sure. It will be a serious framework that would lead to peace and security for the both people and both states.
Yeah. Ahmed, talking about recognition to Palestine as a separate state, now there have been, of course, conflicting views. The United States of America in that 20-point plan has mentioned that this will be the focus, but it is a long-term goal. It is not something that is going to happen in the near future. While the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke earlier today as well, said that he is vehemently against a Palestinian state being built on the border of Israel. Do you think that it's going to happen in the coming months and years, or do you think it is something that is a point of discussion for decades together before something of the sort even comes to fruition?
You mean the recognition of
yes, the
United
recognition
States?
of Palestine as a separate state?
Well, this is an inalienable right. This is something stipulated in the UN resolution. It's not up to Netanyahu to decide what's right or what's wrong. This is a natural right. We are the indigenous people of the land who have been occupied, and we demand our independence. And by the United Nations Charter, every nation has its right to self-determination, where all nations got their independence after World War I and World War II, except the Palestinians, apparently. I believe this recognition affirmed to the world and affirmed to Netanyahu and affirmed to everyone that this is the land of Palestine. This is the land that we recognize that is belong to the Palestinians. We affirm their legal and political right in these lands and refuse their annexation plans, our mass displacement plans that Netanyahu provided or spoke about early on. I believe the United States, I hope they would recognize. Now there are more than 160 countries recognizing the state of Palestine, and many more will recognize after the ceasefire and the exchange of hostages, because many has put a condition that when Hamas release the hostages and there will be a swap of prisoners, then we would recognize the state of Palestine. So this is a de facto here that Netanyahu has to deal with. And we have to be honest with ourselves. If we want a perpetual peace, if we want a lasting peace, that peace needs to recognize the Palestinian rights, need to recognize the Palestinian suffering. And it's unfortunate that there's many who still refuse to recognize that. I hope the world would continue and listen to the mass voices from the streets, from Washington, Canada, from Sydney, all around the world.
What do you think, Ahmed, with regards to these, these developments that are taking place in West Bank? Again, a statement being made by Prime Minister Netanyahu that he's not going to allow for a separate state of Palestine to be constituted on the west of Jordan. There is obviously remarks being made, strong remarks made by American administration, by US President Donald Trump, that he will not allow Netanyahu to annex West Bank. Do you think America would be able to persuade Israel to not carry on its strikes in West Bank?
Yes, I believe they already did. They have said clearly to Netanyahu, there is no annexation, there is no displacement, and whatever Netanyahu has in mind is refused, not by the United States alone, but by the international community as a whole. And he needs to actually retune himself toward the world, not to allow the world to retune itself toward him. And I believe that the United States, put a plan that initiates a process. It needs a lot of discussions. There's some points need more to be detailed more. There is issues that need to further enhanced. Of course, it is not the final, I believe, paper. Of course, it's a complicated issue that requires a really detailed and negotiations and discussion to take place. The Arab world has also been clear that they refuse any unilateral action. And the Europeans as well has been clear in that manner. We have already established resolutions. We have the two-state solution, and we have to work from that point. Now, whatever more minor details or little details here, that comes with the negotiation between the main parties. And there has been discussion with Israel. Now is the time that the Palestinian voice be heard and to enter this discussion.
All right, Ahmed, thank you very much for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views. Meanwhile, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has commented on the peace plan and said that Israel remains committed to its war goals while accepting the US-Gaza peace plan. He also warns that Hamas may try to avoid implementing it. Sa'ar's hopes for hostage release and a demilitarized Gaza.
President Trump's plan for ending the war in Gaza and for a better future. It shouldn't surprise anyone because we always wanted to end this war. We always said that we are committed to the goals that we set, but we prefer to achieve them through diplomatic means. Today, too, we are committed to these goals, as set by our Security Cabinet. The one who refused to end the war until now is also the one that initiated it on October 7th, Hamas. And Hamas is solely responsible for its continuation since then and for the suffering of both Israelis and Palestinians during the past 2 years.
All right, I'm being joined by Yossi Cooper-Abbas. Yossi, thank you very much for joining us on NewsX World. And of course, you know, the foreign minister of Israel right now is in Serbia. He's meeting his Serbian counterpart. But most importantly, these conflicting stances that are coming forth from within Netanyahu's cabinet. While we have a far-right leader, the finance minister Bezalel Smotrich, who goes about rejecting the 20-point peace plan that was announced by US President Donald Trump. We have the foreign minister and of course the prime minister of Israel, who have wholeheartedly supported and embraced the peace plan. Why do you think are there conflicting statements, conflicting ideologies within the government of Benjamin Netanyahu?
Well, thank you for having me. We have a coalition government, and of course there are different opinions and different ideologies represented in the government. That's a democracy. And well, that's the kind of democracy we have, and that's the way we operate. I didn't think that what Smotrich said was opposing the plan. He has criticism of the plan, and he waits, I guess, for Prime Minister Netanyahu to come back and clarify the details of what was agreed upon. And his criticism is justified. There are many open questions that have to be answered, and we have to wait and see what are the details beyond the nice words of the communique that was published. I think that what we need to know is how we are going to guarantee that nobody would use violence against us in the future, instead of Israeli control of the security challenges. This is going to be in the hands of some Palestinian force that's going to be established. And this is a big question mark, but this is for later stages. And in the first stage of the war, of the implementation, Israel is going to be responsible for making sure that nothing of this kind is going to happen, and there's not going to be any attempt to use Gaza as a launching pad for terror in the future. We'll have to wait and see the details.
Also with regards to whether there is going to be acceptability from the Hamas side of the 20-point peace plan, keeping in mind that the only statement so far that has been released by the terrorist organization is that they're going to study it, they're going to review it, and then revert on it. Do you think this is likely to be yet another failed attempt by America and Israel to strike a deal? And this, like I said, you know, because I talk about it in such a fashion, being pragmatic and not really massively optimistic, being cautious as a matter of fact, because in the past as well, there have been times that the US president has announced a number of plans, but nothing really has come to fruition in terms of a peace deal.
Well, this time is a little bit different in several aspects. First of all, Israel is in the midst of a very large military operation against one of the last strongholds of Hamas. And if we are not going to be stopped by the acceptance of the plan by Hamas, we are going to continue with the full backing of the international community and even the Arabs and the Muslims in our effort to remove Hamas from power by force. So this is something totally different than the situation that prevailed until a couple of days ago, when there was a lot of criticism of what Israel was doing militarily in Gaza City. Now the tables are going to turn around, and Hamas has to take it into account. Secondly, there's a lot of pressure on Hamas now coming from Qatar and Turkey and Egypt, those who support Hamas until now, to accept the deal. And they issued a statement supporting the deal, supporting the plan. And it's an unprecedented situation for Hamas, and they are under a lot of pressure. I fully understand why they are not running to accept the deal, because it's a problematic deal from their point of view, giving up the control of Gaza, and most importantly, doing something that would put down the 7th of October in the history of the Palestinians, total failure and deep mistake, huge mistake. And this is something very difficult for Hamas to accept. But on the other hand, if they don't accept it, Israel is going to get the green light, not only from the United States, and the backing of the United States, but also the green light of the rest of the world to keep putting more pressure on Hamas and removing them from power by force. And this is something that Hamas has to take into account.
Right. Yossi, thank you very much for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views. Members of the Sumud flotilla have slammed the US President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan. They called the proposal an insult to human intelligence and dignity and a mockery of international law. The members also stated that Israel has violated international law and lacks legitimacy in any peace process. Earlier, Israeli Foreign Ministry accused the flotilla of having discovered Hamas documents revealing links between flotilla members and Hamas.
Trump's so-called peace plan is an insult to human intelligence and dignity and a blatant mockery of international law, as the UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese has clearly stated.
Israel has violated international law in its entirety and holds no legitimacy in any peace process. The only viable outcome for this genocidal regime is to be prosecuted by International Court of Justice and International Criminal Court.
In developments from Jerusalem, there are 3 people who were injured in a suspected car ramming terror attack at Al-Khadir Junction in the West Bank, south of Jerusalem. According to Megan David Adom Emergency Services, 2 victims are in good to moderate condition. Among the 3 injured, there is a 15-year-old boy seriously injured. Police say that the assailant was neutralized by security forces at the scene. A video of the aftermath shows men in plain clothes aiming weapons at a figure on the ground next to a car. The incident was initially reported as a shooting due to the gunfire at the attacker. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that Moscow does not believe that Washington has taken a final decision on supplying Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine. The U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance had earlier said that Washington was considering a Ukrainian request for Tomahawks. Lavrov has said that U.S. talk about the matter looks like it is the result of pressure from Europe and that Washington wants to show it is taking its allies' opinions into account.
Я думаю, что это результат прежде всего давления Европы на Вашингтон, и Вашингтон хочет показать, что он учитывает мнение своих союзников. Я не думаю, что мы уже имеем дело с принятым решением. Томагавки американцы далеко не всем поставляют. Из европейцев, если я не ошибаюсь, в Испанию и в Нидерланды. Остальным как-то остерегаются. И если они считают, что Украина это ответственная держава, которая будет ими ответственно пользоваться, то это будет для меня удивительно.
Russia had earlier said that its military was analyzing whether United States would supply the Tomahawks to Ukraine for strikes deep into Russia, a step that Russian officials say could trigger a steep escalation. Alison Matla on the telecast with me. Alison, let's hear it from you with regards to this talk about the proposal that Ukraine has put forth in front of the American administration to buy those special missiles to strike deep into Russian territory. At this point of time, there has not been a commitment that has been shown by the US administration on whether those Tomahawks will actually be delivered to Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen in the coming days and weeks, keeping in mind that Russia will view it as a steep escalation in the war between Ukraine and Russia?
My view is that the request for the Tomahawks and even the deliberation, the hesitation in coming up with a clear and final answer in Washington is actually a bargaining tool. Russia, I've seen Russians' reactions. Dmitry Peskov also, as you just played, the Russian foreign minister. I think Russia is rather worried about this. Normally Russia, if something happens, like for example, they're accused of meddling in Moldova elections, generally makes fun of a country. But I can tell by their reaction, they are actually worrying. They're saying military analysts will analyze it. They're actually being very serious about it. And they're not saying anything direct that Putin says this or that, that they will do this. So I think they're actually quite concerned. But I do think the request and the fact that Donald Trump is deliberating on it is a calculated move, and it is a bargaining chip because Donald Trump has said he wants to end the war. It's clear that his efforts at a ceasefire or peace talks have dismally failed, that Vladimir Putin has not been taking him seriously and has been playing for time. It seems that Donald Trump has either he believed Putin or he didn't have good advisors, or he's woken up to the fact that Putin has actually outsmarted him. So I think he's realized that they have to ratchet up the situation. But that is also very risky because if the US delivers Tomahawks, and you say they're long range, what they can do, a Tomahawk can strike 1,000 kilometers, and they would obviously strike key, as you said, key power plants, etc., etc. They could actually strike Moscow. So we are seeing an escalation. For example, the German foreign minister, I know this isn't quite on the subject, but it is linked. The German foreign minister today said that Europe and Russia are no longer at peace. So we are seeing an escalation, but whether it will lead to Russia taking a step back and agreeing to peace talks, which doesn't look like it at this moment, or whether it will lead to a further escalation, we'll definitely find out in the coming days. And the decision actually rests with Donald Trump. He will have to decide whether the US will send those Tomahawks or not. But definitely Russia is worried.
Right, Alison, thank you very much for joining me and sharing your views. At least 10 people have been killed in a suicide bombing outside a paramilitary headquarters in Quetta in Pakistan. Officials say the attacker drove a pickup truck packed with explosives before gunmen stormed the compound. A fierce battle followed, leaving 4 attackers dead. Provincial Chief Minister Sarfaraz Bukhti condemned what he called cowardly acts, vowing they would not derail the progress in the region. Hours later, another blast struck a public rally in Quetta, killing at least 11 and injuring dozens more. The rally was held to mark the anniversary of nationalist leader Ataullah Mengal. Quetta, the capital of Balochistan, has long been in conflict by Islamist militants and separatist insurgents. The mineral-rich region is also home to the strategic Gwadar port, a key part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. So far, no group has claimed responsibility for either attack.
जो डेथ टोल है वो हमारे पास 10 लोग जो है वो शहीद हुए हैं, 5 जो है क्रिटिकली इंजर्ड है और 26 इस वक्त जो हमारे पास एडमिटेड है वो ज़ख्मी है और बाकी ये जो सिविल हॉस्पिटल की इस वक्त वो है। बाकी हॉस्पिटल से हम अभी कंफर्म कर रहे हैं कि वहाँ पे कोई इस तरह की वो ज़ख्मी तो नहीं लाए गए हैं। यकीनन एक बुज़दिलाना कार्रवाई थी जिनका निशाना जो था इनिशियली वो हेडक्वार्टर था एफसी का।
The Madagascar President Andry Rajoelina has dissolved the government following youth-led protests over water and power cuts.
Mandra-pahan'endry ny gouvernemanta vaovao dia ireo mpikambana ankehitriny no manohy ny fampandehanan-draharaha andavanandro. Ao anatin'ny 3 andro isika dia andray ny anarana atolotra ho prime ministre vaovao ary rehefa vita izany dia anome feim-potoana ny prime ministre ananganany ny
The three-day demonstrations were inspired by Gen Z protests in Kenya and Nepal. These are the largest protests Madagascar has seen in years. According to the United Nations, during the protests, at least 22 people were killed and over 100 people injured. The United Nations reported casualties include protesters and bystanders killed by security forces, along with others killed in subsequent violence by gangs. Madagascar's foreign ministry has rejected the UN casualty figures as based on rumors or misinformation. All right, with that, we come to the wrap